Okay, today's update is going to be a little bit different. I believe this is update number 14 or something like that. I do have some stuff to show you, some progress on the sermons tool, on the front end of the sermons tool, and we've got some other stuff that I'll probably wait to show you tomorrow. But mainly what I want to do in this video is talk a little bit about myself and some of the goals that I have. I was flying back today, and I had some time on the airplane to think about my goals for this project and why I'm doing this. And I just wanted to share them with you. So I'm a pastor. I pastor a growing church. I've been a pastor this week actually for 6 years. I was an assistant pastor before that. And honestly, when I became a pastor 6 years ago, I had a decision to make about web design. Web design development had always been a hobby. It had been a way for me to pick up a couple $100 here, a couple $100 there. And I had to decide if it was something that I wanted to do as a pastor. And frankly, what I decided initially was that I was going to give it up. I hated to do it, but I decided I was going to give it up. And this is going to sound a little bit strange, but I really felt like the Lord, I went to a meeting and I actually went forward at an altar. A preacher was preaching and giving his testimony about how the Lord used some different ministries of their church. And I really felt like the Lord was leading me to use my talents and my interest in this to help churches. And so I started this thing called Sites for Church that sort of died. To be honest, we're planning on bringing it back under a different name. But my goal was to start to create my own content management system for churches and provide churches that are in the small to medium range, churches with less than 150 people or so, great church websites that were super easy to set up and take care of for a really inexpensive price. And so I worked like crazy for a whole year on that project, and I learned a ton, but it wasn't successful. To be honest, it was a ton of work. The nature of working with churches on their website was very time consuming on an individual basis. And I just kind of realized the writing was on the wall. I needed to go in a different direction. And so I started with this, doing some work for clients, and the Lord kind of directed me towards this idea for simple church tools. And I just wanted to speak about my personal motivation for doing this for a minute. If you'll bear with me for just a minute, okay? My primary motivation for doing the whole simple church tools thing is I want to use my gifts and my talents and my experiences to help other churches and other missionaries. That's the special burden that the Lord has put on my heart. God made me the way that I am. God gave me this interest in this experience, and I want to use it to help churches and to help missionaries. So that's why I'm doing this. I think this is the best way for me to use my talents in a way that can help lots of churches. So there's that. If this takes off, and it's a big if, I mean, there's a huge chance that this is not going to be a super successful thing. But if it is successful and it gives me any kind of a platform, because I'm dealing with all these churches, I want to use simple church tools to sort of emphasize things that I believe in. I want to use it to emphasize missions. I want to use it to emphasize the gospel. I want to use it to emphasize the importance of preaching and preaching with proper hermeneutics and conservative worship, a moderate kind of spirit. These are the things that are important to me. And I feel like, blogging and what everybody else is doing is one way to go about it, but there are positive things that can be done to influence. And that's one of the things that I want to do with this. I don't ever want to get away from being a pastor. So I'm doing this and it's taking a ton of my time. And honestly, it probably is a little bit draining of my resources for my church. I don't ever want this to come above me being a pastor to the people at Bible Baptist Church That's my primary calling, and it's something I don't ever want to get away from. And so it doesn't matter how big this is. If this got huge, I would probably find somebody else to run it day to day and do the work, because my goal is to be a pastor first and foremost. I would love to get to the point where this enables me to travel to preaching conferences and present this to pastors and be a friend to pastors and encouragement to pastors, and actually get to meet some of these wonderful people that I've been able to work with through this face to face. That would be a blessing. If this improves, if this is financially successful, obviously I'd like it to be helpful for my family, but I'd really like to use it as an avenue to help my church, to help missions, and to help other pastors and help other churches and church planting and missions and that sort of thing. To be honest, we went to Pensacola this week, and Pensacola Christian College is a great example of this guy that was a little bit of an oddball. He didn't fit in the box, Arlen Horton and his wife, and they started a textbook company. And their textbook company enabled them to do all of this amazing stuff for God. And it was obviously that was what they were doing. I mean, they poured the vast majority of the funds that came in for something that was helpful to churches and Christian schools and homeschoolers anyways. They took the vast majority of that and reinvested it into the Lord's work. And if this took off, I would love the opportunity to do that, to take, I'm planning on not charging very much for these tools ever. I mean, you can check out the prices of the competitors. I don't want to, I want it to be accessible to everybody. And so maybe I'm charging too little, I don't know. But if we had 1,000 churches that joined Simple Church Tools, that brought in, a bunch of money every month, I think there would be a point very quick where I would say this is enough, and we need to invest this money back into churches and back into the ministry. One of the main reasons I got into this, and one of my original ideas that I was never really able to pull off with the Sites for Church project, was having an avenue to give jobs to pastors. And one of the things that I'm excited about, if this took off, is the ability to hire pastors, Bible college students, people that could use a flexible side income to do things like customer support, and to do things like helping me with data entry and that kind of stuff. That would be awesome. And if this enables that to do that, that would be, such a blessing. I'm just saying all this because I want, and I appreciate if you bared with me and listened to me talk about this for a couple minutes. I just want you to know my heart in starting this. Okay, my heart in starting this has been from the beginning to be a blessing to churches, and I want to use this as a tool for that, and that's kind of the whole idea behind Simple Church Tools. So, with that in mind, we have done a little bit of work on the sermons tool and starting to implement this design. And so this is actually, I've only got the one sermon that I uploaded yesterday, and it's not done. You can click on that, it's not there. But the series, we don't have the images uploaded there yet. These things aren't working yet. The speakers, there's a lot in this design that hasn't been done yet. But we're starting to work on this and implement this. And my goal is maybe by the end of this week for most of this to be working. And this is currently working with the sermon tool backend that I showed you yesterday. So my goal is to have most of this working by the end of this week, maybe the beginning of this next week, and I can show you more of a better demo of that. We've also done some other stuff, and like I said, I'll show that to you tomorrow. But thanks for listening. If you've gotten this far, listening to me kind of bare my heart and my goal and my vision for a few minutes. And I'd love to know what you think about it. So send me a message. I'd appreciate it.